Hello, y'all. It is time for your April Cheese Club box. Kendall Antonelli here. Look, I'm like clenched fist, so excited to talk about our April Cheese Club box. Okay, I have to do a little pitch to lead into this, and this is not, you're already watching this, hopefully you're already a Cheese Club member. So this is not a sales pitch. This is to show why I think our Cheese Club is so cool. Like, we have a goal to not put out any product that we can't stand behind and we're not super proud of. So we've been doing our monthly Cheese Club for 15 years. It all began with Sue Littlefield, this customer who came in and said, I'm gonna pay you every month and you're gonna give me a cool box of cheeses. And we were like, we're not ready, we're not prepared. And then she said, here's the money. And as a small business, you're like, okay, I'll figure it out. So that started year one. And we always do these unique themes, like cheeses made by the sea. And why does that matter? Because the sea sprays on the grasses and all this stuff. Or cheeses aged in caves. Or we do all these deep dive explorations, which is hopefully really fun, whether you know anything about cheese or everything about cheese, and you're getting to do this really interesting deep dive. So this month is something new altogether, although we rarely try to ever repeat anything we do. It is exclusive cheeses to Antonelli's that you can't get anywhere else. So we're gonna talk through, because that really, we started diving down and like, what does that mean? And it really means something different in each one of these cases. But just know that if you fall in love with everything in this box, guess what? You can't get it. We'll talk through some of that. Also, fun fact here, actually three of these four cheeses were made specifically for us, and we did not taste them until they were in-house last week. It was a little bit of a Pandora's box. We opened them up, tried them, and I was like, please let these be good. We've put our reputation on them. But really, we believe in these cheesemakers. They're some of the best in the country, and we know their reputation is on the line too. And at the end of the day, they were all superb. They don't want to put out a product they don't like. And so I'm happy to report we are proud to stand by every one of these cheeses. But it was a unique collaboration and made just for us. So without further ado, we're going to talk through the four cheeses, which is our starting cheese club. We also, if you do the deluxe, we added in a couple pairings, also exclusive to Antonelli's. This is not something we're going to repeat and do every month. You know why? Because it was a lot of work for us, a lot of work for the cheesemakers and our artisanal producers, and they already make such great products anyway. But it was a fun attempt in April. So we want your feedback. Don't make fun of any names. Antonelli's named most of them. If you love something, let us know. And actually, that's always good feedback for the cheesemaker, because they may decide to move it from an R&D, research and development project, into their pipeline. And if you have constructive feedback, let us know, because they always want to know that too. Yeah, but don't judge them. They played around with recipes for us. So are you ready to go on a discovery of flavors and try some new things? Step one, number one, if you have your menu guide, pull that out with you. We're gonna always start with our youngest cheese, our fresh cheese, and that is this beautiful, like, ice cream scoop. I mean, literally, we used an ice cream scoop to dollop it on here. And this is a fresh chev. Here we are in the spring. The goats are starting to kid. Kids are baby goats. So we're getting this first new milk of the season. Goat's milk cheeses. Chev means goat in French. These goat's milk cheeses are always bright and acidic and grassy and zesty. When we say bright, it just has this like pick up your palate, lift it, taste and mentality to it. Sometimes, like I said, that lemon zest or citrus zest, and then this minerality that goes with it. So we complemented that of this goat's milk with apricots. Also, like, we're coming into, depending on where you live in the US, but stone pit season. And so this apricot chev you can use on breakfast bagels, on breakfast toast. You could literally put it in an apricot. You could grill it, wrap it in a little speck, or prosciutto if you want. You can eat this so many different ways, but it's really just easy, enjoyable introduction where I want to start our tasting, because it's the acid in the cheese, and we say acid not because it's like heartburny acid, because it quite literally makes you salivate and wants you to dive back in for more, and that's always the best place to start with a cheese tasting. So this cheese comes to us from Dallas Mozzarella Company. They started out in the 70s when Paula Lambert, this amazing woman who has this beautiful white hair and these big red glasses and just always looks statuesque and put together. She was traveling to Italy and fell in love and came back and was like, why aren't we making great Italian style cheeses here? So that's why it named Dallas Mozzarella Company, although now they do so much more and make all these great cheeses, Italian style, Latin style, and everything in between. So this is their fresh chev. and they paired with us and said, what do you want to flavor it with? And we said, spring feels like these apricots, so let's do this kind of breakfast chev play on it, or dessert chev. I gave up some certain things this time of year, some desserts, and so I'm eating this chev as my dessert, if you will. Go ahead, if you don't get the apricot in it, it really just tastes like that bright chev and that goat's milk cheese. And if you get the apricot, then that's what kind of changes it into a fruity, more savory tasting profile. We'll talk about the pairings, but this one will go with both pairings. I think in the menu I actually said put it with our Meadow chocolate, which is an almond cinnamon, and I'll come back to, but this would be great drizzled into lavender honey. You could do so many things with the chev. You can take it sweet, you can take it savory, but just this is a start our palates off, flavor explosion, subtle flavor journey with one of America's most awarded cheesemakers, of Dallas Mozzarella Company. Okay, I'm like wanting to have a knife and spoon so I can just lick it and eat it with you, although I don't know that that makes for good TV. So we'll hold off on that, nor the sounds that I would make that would accompany it. All right, so second on your menu is this black dual pepper tome, but we're gonna hold off on tasting this one right now. And I'm gonna say next, you're gonna look at these two cheeses. So we have the Whitney here, and then we have the Tome d'El, forgive my French, but you can tell they kind of have a similar looking paste and texture, although they're made two completely different ways. So one, they're labeled as you unwrap them, but if you've gotten them unwrapped and you're confused which is which, this darker brownish red rind, this is the gin and juice from Jasper Hill Farm, and this whiter pinkish sunset a little bit, but it's the light in here, but this whiter rind is the Tome d'El, which is a Canadian cheese. So I want to talk through these, and I hope you're eating these at room temperature, because that's when the full aroma compounds come awake and liven up, and it will actually give it the sensation of being more flavorful as you eat it. But if you just quickly popped both of these, I tried both of them side by side last week, and at first I was like, they taste kind of similar. And then the more I let it sit there and think about it, and ate another bite and let it sit on my palate, and then I tried to identify the finish, and the finish means after you've already swallowed it and you're sitting there, what are the lingering flavor profiles? These two cheeses are very different. So let's take our gin and juice first, but if you're smelling them, before you dive into eating them both, I want you to smell both of them. I get savoriness on this gin and juice. I get, really, I guess, to me, like cooked onions, caramelized onions, when you like brown butter onions, all the way slow cook them down in a skillet. That's what I get when I have this gin and juice. And then with this Tome d'El, the first smell I get is sweetness. It smells sweet, fruity, floral, and then an underlying kind of peat moss grassiness to them. So the smell and aroma is completely different, even though texturally these are gonna be similar. So let's taste through this cheese first. I keep wanting to say Whitney because this comes from Jasper Hill Farm in Vermont. It is based off of their award-winning, it took home Best of Show at the American Cheese Society, their Whitney. Whitney is an Alpine-style wash cheese, similar to a raclette. So, but it's not actively washed where we keep it in this wash rind category, but it develops these bee linens or brevibacteria linens and really kind of creates a more meaty flavored paste, or this profile. So again, sometimes in these cheeses you think like beef bouillon cube, the umami from like a ramen noodle soup. It's what you can start to get in these. But with the wash rind, it actually, even though I said that this smells fruity, I get more fruitiness when I taste this cheese. So we're calling this gin and juice because it's their Whitney recipe, but then they wash it in Tomcat, which is a local to Vermont gin there. So this is part of their Conundrum project. What I love about Jasper Hill is they are trying to be the best cheesemakers they can be. They have done all these expensive things, like had their own mold specialist or scientist on site who has scraped molds from these cheeses and these rinds, and they're really trying to bring science to this whole art of cheese making, which is like, we do all these things and we follow a recipe, but how come when we do it in this spot, it's completely different than when we do it in the same way on a different side of the country. So they're trying to create and capture a unique sense of terroir in Vermont, and that how does that cheese replicate that cow's milk of what those cows are eating in the pasture right there that day, and make that flavor shine through. So in their Whitney, Gin and juice, for us, they've partnered as part of this conundrum project. And conundrum just means that's all the cheeses they do under R&D, and they're not released out into the world under a bigger brand name. So give that one a taste. I just ate little by little this whole piece, but this is also meant to be an amazing melter. It still has a good amount of moisture in it. So you could melt this and scramble this into eggs. You can do it on a grilled cheese. You could do it with mac and cheese, but it's so good just to eat as is and at room temperature. So give that one a try. And then we're gonna follow that one up. Oh, and yeah, you can't get that anywhere else. They made it just for us. They made just this batch, and it'll be out when it's out. So I hope you enjoy it and love it as much as we did in our warehouse last week when we unwrapped it all, and we were delightfully surprised. Again, the base of this is the Best of Show winner at the American Cheese Society. So then we're gonna move to this Tondel. This is a Quebecois, a Quebec company out of Canada. No politics in here in your cheese tasting, but just to say, clearly we ordered this and got this in before all of this tariff stuff. So I don't know actually what the future of this cheese is gonna be, except to say we have been following the birth and growth of this little cheese, which is made and aged at Maison Maurice Dufour. I had to look that up. And again, excuse my French, I just put a little ho on it to make it sound like I speak French. Pedal. Well, that's Spanish. Je ne peux pas parler français. So with that, I know how to say I can't speak whatever language in multiple languages, which usually gets somewhat of a giggle or just outright laughing at me. This Tondel, which I want to talk about what is a tome, but it won its category at the American Cheese Society back in 2011. So oftentimes when we think about American Cheese Society, which my husband John is past president of, I worked for the American Cheese Education Foundation, raising scholarships for them. Their whole goal is to support American cheesemakers, to create knowledge that American cheese is amazing and artisanal, and it's not just the single block slice things that you get out of a wrapper. But people are often thinking only US, and it actually includes Canadian, Mexican, and other Latin American cheeses. It's just that those have a harder barrier to entry when you're entering them in competition. And then if they win, then it's really challenging because you can't actually buy them in the United States for the most part. So this company, one of our importers that we work with and have a long-standing relationship with, everything is about relationships, y'all. They reached out to us and said, hey, we know that you guys, diverse representation in cheese is important to you. We've just onboarded this new Canadian company. Are you interested in representing them? And we were like, yes, we want to be one of the first in, and we love that cheese, and we haven't tried it in multiple years, since I think 2011, but we want in. And so they gave us an exclusive. So for right now, for the month of April, Antonelli's is the only folks in the United States who have this cheese. And then honestly, truly, I hope that it keeps coming in, and that's not just for us, and that we get to spread the cheese love, but we'll see what happens with time coming up and all these tariffs. So let's talk about the style of cheese. Both of these are cow's milk cheeses. Our first cheese, remember, was Bloomy. These two are cow's milk. But this one also has the addition of sheep milk in it. So that flavor-wise is gonna make it a little bit different. Sheep's milk cheese, one we can tell a little bit, this more ivory color, but it's richer in fat. Sheep have a shorter lactation period, which often means sheep milk cheeses are more expensive because they yield less milk. But you get this more nutty, decadent, fuller, richer mouthfeel when you add sheep's milk into the component. The tome is usually just refers to the style of cheese. So tome wheel is about the size of maybe an 8-inch pie, or a little bit smaller. And it always kind of has this natural edible rind on it. So it's what just the earth and the cave landing on that cheese and being patted down and kind of dusted off. That's what the rind of this cheese is. And these rinds are always delicious and edible, especially when compared or put with a nice red wine. And they mimic that earthiness and, I don't know, yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, earthiness. I'd like to say dirt, but in a good way, but we're gonna stick to the euphemism of earthiness and soil and cellar floor and those kinds of things. So smell this again first and then taste it. And whereas you get so much sweetness and fruitiness on the nose, you actually lose some of that and get more of that savory and decadence coming through on the palate. And whereas this gin and juice was really creamy on your palate, this one has a little bit more of that like gritty but pleasing texture to it. And so it's just a fun showcase of two cheeses that seem similar side by side, and if you eat them without thinking, you're like, oh, those could be related. We had a couple team members who were like, oh, those are both like cheddar. And I get that, and we'll keep educating and keep tasting together because neither one of these is really similar to a cheddar, but I get what they were saying. It's that texture that we've kind of been raised on. But the nuance in the style and how they're made, this one washed in gin regularly, this one being allowed to just let the cave sit on the cheese and help develop the flavors, ends up creating two very different profiles. So hopefully you can get the toned ale coming up soon as well, but we'll see. Keep your fingers crossed on that. And lastly, as we take it home, this cheese was actually listed second on your menu, but I wanted you to try it last. This is what we're calling the dueling pepper tome. Again, we made up the name, so feel how you feel about them. I will say when we reached out to Jeremy Little and Jessica Little of Sweetgrass Dairy in Georgia, and we said we want to create something just for our Cheese Club members, and Jessica wrote back and said, Jeremy has been wanting to do this pepper tome, you've got to do it. And we were like, pepper's so polarizing. Like my own mother-in-law is like, pepper is too spicy, don't put it anywhere near me. And she said, no, I think if you'll trust us, the pepper isn't about the spiciness and the heat, it's actually more about this subtlety and flavor. And so where the black pepper really lends this pungent aroma and earthiness, the white pepper is actually supposed to give more of this fruitiness to it, and this, it seems opposite, but sweetness. So smell your cheese. I actually don't smell pepper at all. I don't know if it's just because it was next to that. I think you should smell pepper, but I don't smell it right now. Maybe a little faint hint of it. You can see it in there. Again, we know it's a tome because it's in that similar style, made in that similar wheel, letting the cave age on it. But this one has been continually wiped off and or at the same time aged with reeds around it so that it's not allowed to develop this big natural rind across it. So give this one a bite. Make sure it's warm on your palate. And I hope you're as pleasantly surprised and delighted and pleased as we were. This is tasting notes from our team. Matt said it transports him right back to his grandma's kitchen and tastes like chicken and dumplings. Eleanor said, Matt is our events lead, certified cheese professional. Eleanor, another certified cheese professional and our buyer across the business, she said chicken noodle soup. For both of them, I think it's the black pepper and that it's that taste memory and takes you to that certain spot. I taste white gravy. So I'm from the South, I'm from Texas. I know John is my husband's from New York, and I don't even think he'd ever seen white pepper gravy. He'd only ever had brown gravy, and he came to Texas and had chicken fried steak, and he's like, what is this white pepper gravy stuff? To me, that's what I get and think of as a great white pepper gravy on a chicken fried steak and on my mashed potatoes and holiday meals and such like that. So whether you're team brown gravy or team white gravy, that's the flavor it's reminiscent for me. But I ate a bite of this, and I put it last in the tasting because it is a seasoned cheese, and so we want you, if you have any lingering pepper notes, we didn't want that to affect the other cheeses, but the flavor goes on, and it's nuanced, and it had me smiling and thinking about it, and every single person in our new headquarters, we just launched a headquarters. We're big time now. This small business is big time. But every single person just went back for more and more and was like, wow, that cheese is really good. So I think Sweetgrass Dairy, they're not only into sustainable farming, they're into regenerative farming. They have won numerous awards. They really prize their raw cow's milk. And it really is important to them that the cows are grazing on pasture and that they're rotating them regularly. That's similar to Jasper Hill Farm and their Conundrum project. Sweetgrass Dairy has a Paradox project. All of the R&D for cheesemakers is really expensive because you could try something and then you sit on it and age it for 2, 4, 6 months, and then it sucks, and then you've just lost all this cheese. So it's not very common for a lot of cheesemakers to have an R&D project, but their Paradox project, I think that they're onto something, and I think you're gonna love it too. I want your feedback, but I bet you it wouldn't surprise me if we see this cheese coming up down the line. Also, I'm one to kind of poo-poo flavored cheeses, and a pink peppercorn cheese took best of show last year at the American Cheese Society. So I think that's where Jeremy Littlefield was like, you know what, I've had this notion all along, I'm gonna trust my gut, Antonelli's trust me and let me make it for you. So I hope y'all enjoy it as much as I do. Talking through really quickly these pairings, Madou chocolate, this is the only time you can get this almond cinnamon bar. They had made it in R&D a couple years ago, and John and I ran a radio show during the pandemic called Eat Good Radio, interviewing people who do good for their communities through food in some way. And they brought it, John put it in his mouth and he was like, that's the best thing I've put in my mouth in a long time. They ended up not making this flavor, but we reached out to him and said, will you do this just for our cheese club? So we hope you love it just as much as we do. Honestly, this will complement every one of these cheeses, but I would specifically really love it, I think, with our Chev, and I don't know, I kind of like it with all of them, but I'll say the Chev and the Tomdell right now. The other reason, sad to say, but since we came out with this video, Harshit and Elliot have to close down Madhu. They've given it a 7 or 8 year run. It's too hard to stay in business as a small artisanal producer. For instance, the price of cocoa butter has gone up from 9% of their COGS to 40%, and they just can't justify selling a $20 chocolate bar. So if you see artisanal bean to bar chocolate bars around and the prices are going up, you know that nobody's getting rich off of it. It's the cost of everything is going up. So really enjoy that bar if you got it. And then another local producer, and only you can get it from us, is this lavender honey from Tara Chapman of Two Hives Honey. We were the first producer to ever purchase from her, and in fact, she hadn't even started beekeeping. I mean, we thought she had. She was really good at fake it till you make it. But John was judged for this awards, and she applied for it, and he walked right up to her and said, I love you, I love your story, I want to buy the first batch of honey. And she's like, I'm right on top of that, Rose, and got to beekeeping. So this is just her raw honey that hasn't been pasteurized or heat treated at all, and she's infused it with lavender. And so this actually on the Chev is a great compliment, but I like the sweet and savory and spiciness of putting this with the black pepper Chev, and then adding it with our gin and juice is just a different flavor explosion. So that, and if you've added on your wines, that's a great pairing too. We really want your feedback. We hope many of you were new to sign up for April. Please let us know how we're doing, how you like it. And most importantly, I hope you just get to sit and relax in these challenging times out there and enjoy some freaking good cheese. Over and out, y'all, except to say, I always tell you what's coming up next. May is the next month, and we're doing All-American Picnic. That was a good plan because, again, for the summer, we had planned a summer in Italy and Spain, France, and a summer in Europe. France, Spain, and Italy. We honestly don't know what's going to happen with that. But we do know when we stand by, May is an all-American picnic. It's cheeses that will be hearty and stand up if you're in Texas in 110-degree heat or somewhere cooler. But we've already got some great selections coming in for that. So join us, keep signing up month by month. Most importantly, give us your feedback, and thank you for supporting our mission to do good, eat good, which allows us to support all these artisanal makers and give back to our community. Over and out.